Hello, welcome to Jennifer's Magical Book Club. Today I'm going to read a novel which is called Paperboy. I'm going to continue from page 62. So I'm gonna start. Because I didn't have a good answer. I didn't have any answer. He kept looking at me and waiting like I was going to have to come up with something before he would let me ask another question. Because you're not me. Exactly, messenger, so it follows that you are not them, correct? I nodded. Your questions are filling out our sails. We are making grand headway. Another one, if you will. Why do you people who can talk right fast so many words saying nothing? Mr. Sparrow smiled again. I was proud of my questions because I thought it was one that he could really haul off and take a poke at. Perchance, do you know the name Voltaire? I hadn't heard of the name, but it started with the same sounds as my name, so I didn't care much for it. I shook my head. Voltaire was a French philosopher of 2 centuries past. He answered your questions quite well. La parole était donnée à l'homme pour déguiser sa pensée. Mr. Sparrow moved his mouth the same as always, but what came out was strange and exciting, like if you turned on the kitchen faucet to get a drink of water and sweet lemonade came out instead. Mr. Sparrow smiled, another new kind of smile. "'Tis rude of me to go out of country, but it's a favorite quote of mine that rings more true. In the original French, it translates, 'Speech was given to man to disguise his thoughts.' I burned the sentence onto my brain like Tad Williams' name was burned onto my Louisville's Slugger baseball hat. Baseball bats. I was the one smiling now. Whoever this Voltaire guy was, he drew a hard one right down the middle when he said that. I guess people were using words to keep you from knowing what they were thinking. When Mr. Voltaire lived in France, and they were sure doing it big time in Memphis in 1959. So many questions started whirling around in my head that I didn't know which one to pick. The question that came out didn't make any sense, and I couldn't finish it because I didn't know what I was trying to ask. Who thought up the letters and sounds that my gentle air faded into thin air. Mr. Sparrow looked at me until he knew my brain had completely stopped working. If I understand your question, I believe you have Napoleon Voltaire to blame. The short guy? A good laugh from Mr. Sparrow. While the short guy, as you referred to him, didn't invent the modern alphabet, he did help us preserve it. I waited without saying anything because Mr. Sparrow wasn't blinking and I knew he was getting ready to tell a good story. Almost 200 years ago, our diminutive Napoleon was out and about doing his conquering in Egypt when one of his lieutenants brought him a large stone with writing on it. His army had found it near a town named Rosetta. They the stone to be centuries old. When the British defeated Napoleon, they took the Rosetta Stone to London. Archaeologists studied the writing and decided that our modern alphabets and the corresponding sounds actually came from Egyptian hieroglyphics. Mr. Sparrow could put so much information into his sentences that it hurt my head trying to keep up. Hieroglyphics is tantamount to writing with pictures. I remembered seeing the word hieroglyphics in my weekly reader, but I had never heard it said out loud. But words and letters can be pictures. He came back with questions that sent my minds off to the races. Does W remind you of waves of water? Does a capital H remind you of the columns of a house? Does an O resemble the face of an owl? Does an S look like a snake? I juggled the letters and waves and owls and snakes around in my head. How come nobody had ever told me that letters were more than sounds you make? Mr. Sparrow got to his feet. He took his glasses from the tip of his nose and slid them on top of his head. Memory serves that I owe you the second installment of the incentive compensation I promised last week. He reached inside the door and handed me another piece of $1 bill. It was the lower left-hand corner. On it was written the word servant in the same careful hand that students had been written in the week before. You now have 1/2 of your golden fleece. With Egyptian hieroglyphs and my weekly reader pictures of Cleopatra and snakes crawling around in my head, I knew I was going to have trouble saying much more. When I got excited about something, my talking went all the way haywire. I started thinking about what I was going to say three sentences ahead, and then I got stuck on the sentence I was trying to get out. Words stirred around in my brain like the propeller on the milkshake machine at the drugstore. I know about Jason and his gang. There had been a story in my weekly reader called The Golden Fleece about Jason and the Argonauts who lived a long time ago trying to find a ship with its hull made out of gold. Good for you, young messenger. Can I ask, was Jason real? If you were asking if the story of Jason and Argonauts is fiction or not fiction, I will answer that there is no difference between the two in the world I inhabit. Therefore, the question does not have a valid answer. I felt like I was falling off a cliff and trying to grab for tree limbs or anything to slow me down like cowboys do in television shows. But fiction is the story and nonfiction is the truth. I replied that you are referring merely to the rule of law. I contend that one is likely to find more truth in fiction. A good painting, after all, is more truthful than a photograph. Remember that, young messenger, for all your days. I kept his words rolling around in my hand until I was sure I had everything put away in the right place. We'll have plenty of time to explore your queries at a later dates, but let's drop our seals for now. One more questions today. Do you know about Demosthenes? I had wanted to say that name out loud ever since I had read in my weekly reader about this guy who lived a long time ago and had to put pebbles in his mouth to keep from stuttering. Mr. Sparrow smiled another kind of smile, and then his head went back and he laughed a real honest-to-godness laugh for the first time. It was a loud laugh, almost like one of Ma'am's full whoops that she used to call me from my room. Yes, but I suggest you not trying putting pebbles in your mouth. You might accidentally swallow one. Too late, I wanted to tell him. I had already swallowed 2 of my student marbles trying to copy them onto. It might have worked a long time ago, but not anymore. At least not with student marbles. Mr. Sparrow started back into his house. Thanks for your excellent service and good conversation, my young candidate. We have a date next Friday when we will continue to cultivate our garden. He closed the door. I had just finished the first official conversation I had ever had with a grown-up stranger. But Mr. Sparrow didn't feel like a stranger to me anymore. He had said things that would keep me busy thinking all week, and then I could come back for more next Friday. Mr. Sparrow had talked about his word. I wanted to know more about what was in it because he knew so much about my word. Bob Fowler and Renee Duran and Mr. Candid. I needed to remember to ask Mr. Sparrow who the Candid guy pitched for. Okay, so this is the end of chapter 5. I'm going to continue from chapter 6 next time. Thank you for watching my video and have a nice day. Bye bye.